Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. My dress today is because I'm headed down to Mombasa. I'm speaking at a conference organised by Standard Bank, so I'm getting in the mood for it. I'd like to thank Bharat Thakra for an outstanding dinner last night, which dinner certainly belongs in the annals of gastronomy. I'll put up a photograph with Bharat that I took with Johan a while back, and a picture of the chicken he cooked, which was extremely flavoursome and delicious, and thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, I'm looking forward to being in Mombasa overnight, where I'm speaking at the Standard Bank Investor Conference stroke dinner. And on that note, I'll put up a photograph I took around the new year of the beach and the sea at Southern Palms, which is just a bit further along from where I'll be staying. And I'll also put up a photograph taken in 1953 of the dhows in Mombasa. And I remember as a young boy those dhows being in the port and in the creek. I look forward to hosting Dennis McCory, who's the CEO of On Phone Media, at Mindspeak on the 30th of August. Dennis has a fantastic story to tell. His father was a Matatu tout. He went to university and became very interested in computers, and classic example of the 10,000 hour Malcolm Gladwell rule, you'll find. A very interesting story. Mindspeak is held at the Intercontinental. We've had some great guests this year, including Christine Lagarde, Dr. Titus Nagkuni, Charles Ireland, Dr. Richard Sesibera, Munir Ahmed of National Bank, and Joshua of KCB. I'll put up a link for the Mindspeak with Christine Lagarde, and there's another link for all the other Mindspeaks this year and previous years. My piece over the weekend was "The Ebola virus is non-linear and economic forecasting is now high beta." I then saw a story in Bloomberg saying the Ebola dead can't be buried in Liberia amid bag shortage, and that's terrible. WHO tweeted the risk of transmission of Ebola during air travel is low. Unlike influenza or tuberculosis, Ebola is not airborne, they said. And there's a lot of debate about whether it can mutate and become airborne. My macro thoughts were at this photograph, "Temple to Capitalism" by James Ryder. Home thoughts, I took a photograph looking towards my office from CNBC yesterday, and I'll post that because it was quite fun. Political reflections: a masked Islamic State militant holding a knife speaks to man purported to be US journalist James Foley at an unknown location. Still image from an undated video posted on a social media website. Islamic State insurgents posted a video on Tuesday purportedly showing the beheading of US journalist James Foley, and images of another US journalist whose life, they said, depended on how the United States acts in Iraq. The video, titled "A Message to America," presented President Obama with bleak options that could define America's next phase of involvement in Iraq and the public reaction to it, potentially deepening his hand in a conflict he built much of his presidency on ending. The words "Obama authorizes military operations against the Islamic State, effectively placing America upon a slippery slope towards a new war front against Muslims," appeared in English and Arabic on the screen. It showed black and white aerial footage of airstrikes with text saying "American aggression against the Islamic State." A man identified as James Foley, his head shaven and dressed in an orange outfit similar to uniforms worn by prisoners at the US military detention camp in Guantanamo, Cuba, is seen kneeling in the desert next to a man standing, holding a knife and clad head to toe in black. I concluded by saying we could be entering Jimmy Carter territory here. You will recall the Iran hostage crisis, referred to within Iran as the conquest of the American spy den, was a diplomatic crisis between Iran and the United States. And, that was a serious challenge and essentially lost the election for Jimmy Carter. Put up an image of American hostages being paraded by their militant captors on the first day of the occupation of the US Embassy in Tehran in 1979. I'll put up a link. I can't find the actual raw footage of this video about which Reuters were referring, but I found another one. ISIS message to America: "We will drown all of you in blood." Global research is saying that ISIS is spreading its tentacles. Cells are being organized by North Africans who have fought and are now returning to their home countries. Over the last 2 months or so, the direction has been changing, and ISIL also wants to establish an infrastructure in North Africa, the source said. Rami told the US Central Command sponsored Maghrebia.com news site that ISIL has attracted numerous smaller Al-Qaeda aligned cells in North Africa. In addition, ISIL has recruited hundreds of so-called lone wolves for attacks. Therefore, al-Baghdadi can use those at any moment to carry out terrorist operations and destabilize regional countries, Rami said. I'll put up an image of Pope Francis in Korea that I liked, and he really is extraordinary 21st century Pope. Palestinian fighters from the ISIL Din al-Qassam brigades, the armed wing of the Hamas movement, stand inside an underground tunnel in Gaza on August the 18th, 2014. Again, Reuters. Hamas fighters clad in black and armed with assault rifles navigated the dimly lit tunnel with ease, saying they felt at home in their network of underground passages in Gaza Strip. A rare tour that Hamas granted to a Reuters reporter, photographer, and cameraman appeared to be an attempt to dispute Israel's claim that it had demolished all of the Islamist groups' border infiltration tunnels in the Gaza war. We are speaking to you today from inside one of those tunnels, which Israel said it had destroyed. Our men are still operating in those tunnels, prepared for all options, said a masked fighter from Hamas's ISIL Din al-Qassam brigades. The euro touched 133.03, which was the strongest level since November, the lowest level for the euro, the strongest level for the dollar since November the 7th. The dollar was very strong across the board. The dollar index is at 81.96. Japanese yen 103.14. The yen fell the most since April 7 against the dollar. Swissy 0.9102, pound 166.08. The dollar is at the strongest since April 8th against the pound. Aussie 0.9293. The central bank governor, however, said the risk of a material fall in the Aussie dollar is underestimated. India rupee 60.817, South Korean won 10.2215, Rial 224.68, Egyptian pound 7.1518, and the South African rand a little softer, 10.6770. The dollar index, I'm going to put up a 3-month chart of that, 81.96 last. It's beginning to make that move, as in the song by Shalimar. And it's been sort of grinding higher, but we are blowing through some resistance levels now. I'll put up a link to that song I like by Shalimar, Make That Move. Euro dollar 133.03 when I checked last. I'll put up a 3-month chart that looks to be breaking down here. And I think in part that's because of a perception that the Ukraine crisis is importing further weakness into the euro economy. Interesting piece I came across in Market Realist about the birth of Novo Banco SA and Banco Espírito Santo. And just to give you an example of what's happening there, the Bank of Portugal will take control of Banco Espírito Santo's assets and deposit-taking operations by transferring them to a new company, Novo Banco SA. It will inject money from its resolution fund into the new company. Banco Espírito Santo is going to become the bad bank compared to the new good bank. It will be left with all the toxic assets. Shareholders and owners of the bank's junior debt will be left with Banco Espírito Santo's most problematic assets, including loans to other parts of the Espírito Santo group and the lender's stake in BES Angola. Deposits and all senior bondholders are fully preserved. So, interesting play, actually. Might well be worth looking into that situation in Angola for that bank. Angola is, of course, one of the most booming economies in sub-Saharan Africa. Gold, further below 1300 at 1295.35. Given that I think we're seeing a stronger dollar, I think gold will come under further pressure. Crude oil, fresh multi-month lows, $92.86. That's come off very, very dramatically, and I think a lot of the Iranian signaling that's been going on is part of the reason for this sharp fall down. I like this photograph over the rainbow Shanghai Nanpu Bridge, long exposure night LED lights, Paul Reifer. This beautiful photograph. South African all share fell 0.4% yesterday. It's up 11.04% this year. Dollar rand 1067.42. A little bit softer. Egyptian pound where it's been 715.16. Egyptian EGX30 is at multi-year highs, jumped 0.85% yesterday. It's up 38.582% this year. Nigeria all share rallied 1.07% yesterday. That's now up 1.168% for the year. Nigeria has arrested a man with suspected bombs near the airport. Abu Bakr Shakar, of course, said in a video last month that he was responsible for the June 25th blast at a fuel depot in Lagos. That's when he famously said, "We are in your cities." And that was the first time the insurgent sect laid claim to an attack on the coastal hub that is home to over 20 million people. So clearly this is something we've got to keep an eye on. Lagos is such a big component of sub-Saharan Africa's economy. If it gets infected by Ebola or a more intense insurgency, then we've got to look at our projections for Africa. Ghana Stock Exchange fell 0.05% yesterday. It's up 3.496% this year. Interesting piece on Beyond BRICS, Sub-Saharan Africa's middle class to balloon, Standard Bank says. Middle class households in 11 leading sub-Saharan African economies, excluding South Africa, are set to balloon to about 40 million by 2030. as the benefits of economic growth are more inclusively distributed, according to Standard Bank Group Limited. About 15 million of the 110 million households in Angola, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Mozambique, Nigeria, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda and Zambia are lower middle class and middle class, consuming from $15 to $115 a day. About 86% of households are low income, consuming less than $15 a day. Between 2000 and 2014, we've seen a tripling of middle-class households across these 11 countries. It confirms that idea that Africa has structurally changed, that there's been real improvement in the last 10 years, not just cyclical. It's been a real structural change. The emergence of a middle class was found to be most profound in Nigeria, which is Africa's largest economy. About 4.1 million households, or 11% of Nigeria, consume $23 to $115 a day. That's 6 times more than in 2000. East Africa lagged other regions, with more than 90% of households in Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya defined as low income. Africa remains predominantly low income, Fremantle said. A big part of these households are exceptionally vulnerable, exceptionally marginalized, and very far from being able to allocate any kind of spending to what would be defined as non-stable. These are people clinging to survival. That's obviously a big socioeconomic challenge that needs to be faced very pragmatically. Moody's downgraded South Africa's 4 main banks' credit ratings as the country's financial sector continues to endure ripple effects of the collapse of African Bank, the nation's biggest lender of unsecured loans. Moody's said the decision to downgrade Standard Bank Absa, FirstRand and Nedbank by 1 notch reflected its view of the lower likelihood of systemic support from South African authorities to fully protect creditors in the event of need. EcoBank expects South Africa's Nedbank to convert a $285 million loan to shares in the Lome-based bank before the end of the year. Albert Essien, who's the CEO, said he was confident Nedbank would exercise the conversion option and also top up the conversion amount with $206 million to give it a 20% stake in Ecobank. I'm sure they'll do that. SAP is setting out a Sub-Saharan Africa policy, 7-year plan to invest $500 million in Africa, hoping to accelerate its growth across 5 regions on the continent, including South Africa and Nigeria and Kenya. Poachers killed an estimated 100,000 elephants across Africa between 2010 and 2012. Some individual elephant death numbers are shocking. Elephant population in Tanzania's Selous Game Reserve dropped from 40,000 to 13,000 over the last 3 years. Tanzania is readying rules to open its stock market to foreigners, studying proposals by the country's stock market regulator to scrap limits on foreign share ownership, providing a further spur to Africa's best performing equities gauge. It's better performing than Egypt. It's up 50% so far this year. This is a positive step by the Tanzanians. Yesterday I noted that the 5-year bond is trading at between 4.82% and 4.99%, and our 10-year bond is trading at between, these are yields, 5.89% and 5.80%. BAT closed at a record yesterday of 799. It's up 33.166% so far this year. 20 coast hotels have shut on low bookings. This is a story in the Business Daily. 15 hotels have closed in the North Coast and 5 in Kwale as effects of travel warnings issued in May by Britain, the US, France and Australia continue to bite. Occupancy level at the coast is currently below 20% during the high season. Do have a look at the interview I did with Mahmoud Jan Mohammed about tourism. He is an eminence grise in the sector and he had a lot of good things to say, a lot of interesting things to say. And I did enjoy catching up with him 11 days ago. M-Pesa users face tariff rise for amounts above 1,500 shillings. Bob's very good at yield management. What he's done is reduce the cost below 1,500 shillings and increased it marginally above. The majority of transactions, 65%, are actually happening below 1,500 shillings. Of course, we have Equity Bank's challenge now getting closer. It's now going to cost an average 0.8% to send amounts above 1,500 shillings on M-Pesa. 2/3 of M-Pesa users send amounts below 1,500 and now will cost 25 shillings to transfer, previously 33 shillings. We know Equity Bank are via their MVNO license are about to come into this mobile money market. Bob Collymore, Safaricom CEO, said the firm had analysed the M-Pesa transaction trends and found that 65% of most transactions fall within the lower band. I'll put up a link for Safaricom share price data. I'll put up a photograph of an M-Pesa shop, which is on the other side of the road to Safaricom headquarters. The Kenya shilling has been soft of late, 88.35 last. Nairobi all share up 14.262% this year, and less than 0.5% off a record high set on the 6th of August. NSE 20 is up 2.923%. It's at a January 28th high, and it's been above the 5,000 level since the 5th of August. And if you need to check any share price of the stock market, there is a link at the bottom of Rich Wrap-Ups where you can have a look at that. I'm off to Mombasa, and I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully on the podcast as well. Once again, thank you for supporting me. I do appreciate it.